I buy a lot of vintage cars from places like eBay and conventions. Many of them are covered in dirt and dust, and sometimes a good cleaning with soap and water reveals a gem underneath. Other times cleaning with soap and water doesn't cut it, and cars still look dull and worn. If the paint is in good shape, I'll then try a second step to polish the paint to restore the car. I have two cars here, one a vintage Spectraflame Redline from Troy Grant, and the other is an enamel painted Matchbox. Both are from around 1967-68. So just like every infomercial you've ever seen involving restoring paint, we'll use some tape to mask off half the car so you can see if there's any improvement in the finish. To polish the paint, we'll be using the same thing you would use on a real car, rubbing compound. I'm using Turtle Wax brand, but any rubbing compound will work. You can buy this at any auto store. We just apply some to the car paint and then work in circular motions going over the entire body. Occasionally I'll stop, wash the car, and dry it. Run a microfiber cloth over it. If the finish is what I would like, then I can stop. If it is not polished up enough, then I'll simply reapply more rubbing compound and repeat the process. Just like any real car, paint restoration results may vary. A lot of factors determine the final outcome, for example, paint thickness and paint quality. But for the most part, in my own personal experience, polishing the paint tends to help the aesthetics of the cars I use it on. This is true for this old Matchbox. Whatever oxidation was on the old paint was stripped away, and we're left with a color more representative of the original new car. Also, the car now has a nice shine to it instead of the dull look it was sporting before. The process works equally well for Spectraflame cars that suffer from the same dull finish. The process is exactly the same except for the fact that you need to use a little more care with Spectraflame, as it tends to not be as thick as enamel paint, and thus you risk actually removing the paint from sharp corners. On the last car you saw me just using my hand to apply the compound, and this works, but if you plan to do very many cars you should probably use a cloth, as your fingers will get rather tender after doing this for very long. Speaking of time, I spent about 10 minutes per car. This gets most cars in about as good a shape as they'll get without stripping and repainting them. Because this old bus has a nice large undetailed surface, I thought I'd go ahead and demonstrate it here. The results speak for themselves. If you're wondering if you can use this on tampos, the answer is yes, but you do need to use care if the tampo is already coming off. I recommend that you give this a try on old cars like these before you try it out on your expensive Redline collection. Once you get the hang of it, many of your cars that would not come clean in soap and water may come out sparkling clean after this treatment. Hope you give this a try, and thanks for watching. See you guys next time.